welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
Welcome to the Post-Human Podcast, folks. Tonight we have Mal Foster with us, guest, host of the Dimed Out Podcast. We're going to be a bit loose again tonight because my boom arm has decided to play fuckeries. We're coming out from the kitchen again, and I'm a few weeks behind on links. So, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I feel your pain with the game of fuckeries that technology as a whole, both the internal aspect of recording devices and the equipment used. It's one of the unspoken hardships of this game is when things just fuck up at the last minute, unexpectedly.
I did see that you're a year in. I've just briefly looked on your Twitter to see that you're a year in. So congratulations on being a year in.
Thank you, man.
That's a veteran almost. If you're most people are still out there. I'm 3 months in, if that.
Well, I've done this for a number of years. This is just a year with this show.
Okay.
I want to say collectively, I've done it about 4 years. For other people, either in a production capacity, editing capacity, or co-presenting for other websites and stuff, or things I've done on my own. I've done it about 4 years. But yeah, 1 year with this show.
So you are a veteran.
I'm OG.
Yeah, man. I'm the rookie in this one. I feel I'm going to I fuck up all my shows, to be honest. I keep them very loose. But now the pressure's on. The pressure's really on.
No pressure, man. There's no expectations. And that's the beautiful thing about this format and medium is that there is something for everybody. And, you know, if you like really tight, consistent things that are really polished and hyper-produced, you've got things for that. If you're just kind of like, I don't give a shit, I just want to hear people waffle on and talk about it. You've got an open feel for that. I love it.
Yeah, man. That's kind of my show. You know, there's well, it's a split. It's a 50-50 mix. So what other stuff have you worked on? What's your obviously you're a year in. Did you do much editing yourself?
Yeah. So, and that's been a big learning curve over the last year. With other stuff that I've done, as I used to do like a show, but it was really periodic. It was just as and when I felt like doing it. There was no rhythm or structure to it. It's just like, I'll get around to doing something at some point. And for that, I never used to edit. I used to put things out as super raw. I'd record it, wouldn't even listen back to it, and I'd just be like, that'll do.
That sounds exactly like my field of thought right now. I'm doing that exact process.
And it's good because it kind of loosens you up a lot and it gives you a lot of flexibility and room to just kind of focus on what it is that you want to do with what you're doing further down the line. I got to a point where I was like, maybe I could actually start like tightening this up a little bit. So I'm kind of in the middle ground now where I will edit stuff, but I will try not to be too hard on myself. But at the same time, I'm learning things as well. Like, and this is going to kind of go off into a weird geeky tangent, but I'm learning about EQ settings. I'm learning about mouth declicking. I'm actually learning about audio processing as I throw myself into it. So there's stuff that comes from being a bit more sort of tight-assed about it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot of music editing. So
yeah,
I know a little bit about audio, not huge amounts, but
right, the same here. But
I can work
doing this.
Yeah, I can work my way around Ableton. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. But again, it's such a long process of tinkering with knobs, and you can spend a hell of a lot of time on there just tampering about with the Live 8 program that come out, or Max for Live, or whatever. You know what I mean? I think it was Live 8 at the minute.
Yeah. It's a world in which you can really lose yourself in tinkering and tweaking with like the minutiae of different things. And I try not to get that far deep into it because I don't want to be honest, because I'm like, I want to spend other things, I want to do other things with my life and my time, rather than just being like, oh, that could go down a touch, maybe a little bit more up on that. But it's interesting, you know, it kind of throws you into a different sort of
what hobbies have you got
view of
if
it.
you want to free up your time?
Yeah, sure. So the reason I kind of got into this in the first place is because like my main thing that I just love and have loved since I was a kid is music and film. And so I used to be a freelance copywriter and sort of content creator. I
Okay.
fucking hate that term, but it's I know I do because it's so vague and so open, but essentially that's what it would be classed as. Basically, I used to do a lot of music reviews, film reviews, op-eds, articles, and stuff for different companies and websites and what have you. And then as medium has changed, people got into podcasting and video editing and stuff, and so that's how I found my way into it. So yeah, it's just like a
So
huge
love your films then.
Yeah, to a ridiculous
Watch,
level.
yeah. If you're a podcaster, you don't get no time to watch films.
No, or listen to other
Yeah,
things
you don't.
as well.
It's tricky.
Oh,
You almost have to
'cause
give
I
up
used to
half of your life.
Yeah, you do. Like, and that's no bullshit. You do because I used to be really good at keeping up with current music, with like new music. It kind of came part and parcel with doing music reviews and sort of editorials and stuff. You had to be in the loop. Now I'm lucky if I can listen to about 3, 4 new albums a year because it's like I don't have the time to spare my ears to listen to something else someone else has made half the
I mean,
time.
I'll try and listen. I'll try and listen to podcasts and sort of delegate some time for it. But in
Yeah.
terms of like social aspect side, it's tricky to find a life outside of the podcasting world. If you're just podcasting 24/7, you could.
But it's cool because you kind of find other
Oh yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
I know what you mean. You definitely have to sacrifice a part of that, but at the same time, you're opening up a lot of doors. If you're working with guests,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is something I've been doing over the last year, because I started initially with just friends and family during lockdown as kind of like a way to stay connected with people during all that bullshit. But then it moved out of that. Yeah, to make sure that like, okay, you can't say that I haven't called you because I have. We just have a conversation and recorded it. It's technically me checking in on you. Right?
How did that work out?
Yeah, all right for the most part.
Did you tell them before or after?
Oh no,
Oh, okay.
beforehand. Yeah,
I've thought about that a
That'd be
few
really
times.
fucking weird if I was just, like, recording people on.
Think how loose the conversations would get though. Be
Oh,
gold,
absolutely.
gold,
Just absolute nuggets of truth.
gold.
Just unprotected truth. But yeah, kind of moving on into a wider field and looking at particular guests and kind of going through guest exchange stuff online, you find that you connect with other people doing this weird little hobby that we do that's opening up different doors and kind of finding a different social avenue there.
Class.
Like
Sorry,
oh, sorry, no, go on, man.
I was going to say, do you class it as a hobby or a job yet?
For me, it's still
Okay.
a hobby. I mean, ultimately, ideally, it's, there's a way in to make it a job. I put enough effort and work into it to be a job sometimes.
Absolutely.
And now I'm trying to kind of find a transition from one point to the other without just, I don't know, like I've never wanted to just chase sponsors immediately. I've always kind of wanted to build a sense of trust and a sense of what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like the identity of what it is. And then kind of go from there. So I'm in that transitional period now where I'm starting to think, okay, I've done a year of this. Where can this go? What can I actually do with this? Because I've got a good footing, a little bit, yeah, because it's not cheap either.
No.
If you want to do it good.
Just on software, you can splash out a hell of a lot of money. Let alone,
sure.
by the time. And sometimes you'll buy a piece of software and then you'll have to get something else. So I got. I think I set up my Patreon not long ago, and then I had to get a video hosting service. So then turns out you've got to get Vimeo or whatever.
That's it as well. It's
Yeah,
hosting
yeah.
costs and stuff
And
as well.
that's
This sounds just like two fellas a bit.
that's all right.
People are just like,
Fuck these
"Oh,
guys, slandering the whole market. Nah, so we will move on to some more controversial-ish. Do you talk much controversial stuff on your show?
This season I'm diving into a few more areas which are going to maybe upset a few people, especially because I'm so obviously I'm British, you can tell by the accent, but I actually live in Central Texas,
I
and
was
there
going
are
to ask about the accent. 'Cause I could tell it was British, and the background looks a little bit British, but then you gave me a Central time, and I was like, huh. What's he doing? A VPN?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Living my life with a VPN. Yeah, no, I'm based in Central Texas, and I have been here for about 2.5 years. And there are certain things that I'm perfectly willing to talk about freely and openly, but other people don't like. It's mainly criticisms of cultural aspects. One of which is an episode I've got coming up in this new season that I've finished is talking about school. We're going to dive into something really heavy and dark here. Sorry, school shootings. Yeah, I spoke to a woman who sort of co-created and curated an anthology of true accounts from survivors and like actual survivors and the families of people that have gone. And that was pretty heavy. But yeah, we kind of get into a bit of gun reform chat. And because where I'm from is very conservative and they just absolutely love their guns, it's just like, people in my local sphere might not actually listen to that episode, or if they do, they may not be too happy.
I follow a lot of American stuff. And I'd love to be out in Texas because that's where the comedy scene is right now. Well, I think it's Houston is where everything's,
for sure.
But even I know that the gun laws they're not really ever going to change. Not much.
No, well, they're getting worse. I'm not going to slide because this could be a thing that goes on all day, but it's getting worse, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, I kind of touch upon that a little bit. And tomorrow, actually, this is a real hot button topic for people in the local vicinity. I'm talking about religious trauma with a psychologist that has spent years studying it, like how religion has messed kids up, and then they become messed up adults. Which is something people don't really want to talk about because it's too uncomfortable.
I know a little about that, but that's based upon like when they used to have the laundries. Like back in olden days, and they used to obviously take children to the workhouses, and obviously it was all nuns that were running them, and they were heavily worked, and some really sad stories, to be honest. But
tragic, man.
There's a couple of good books. I can't remember her name. It might be Kathy O'Brien. It might be right. I might have to edit that in later. Just pulling random names from like a book I read 10 years.
Dub the author's name over it.
Yeah. I've never done much editing. I haven't done any, but that might be one. Just because I'd like to get that one right. I think I'm right. I think I'm right. I'll put it out there. I'm probably wrong.
Well, I like the fact that you're kind of going with I think, and you're not just down.
Well,
it's definite.
I read the book about 13 years ago, so it was. I'm trying to pull that from the heavy back part of my brain that's cobwebbed up. And,
that's a fair amount of time that's gone by. Yeah, I think we'll give you a pass.
So whereabouts are you from originally in the UK?
I'm from Northern England, so just like the last stop before you cross over into Scotland, a little place called Carlisle. Yeah.
I had someone on the other day from Fife. So, yeah.
All right. It's weird because I had a fella come round to fix our back door lock, and his parents live in Carlisle, and it was like mind blowing.
It's really weird how people love to go to America. It seems, a lot of people are moving out there. I've got a few friends that are moving out of the country. And they're all wanting to go to, most of them wanting to go to Texas.
Well, I mean, now's a better time.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to bear with me. I'm just getting coffee. It's all right. Yeah, no, it's been a long day. Again, I've been cutting up pieces of wood and painting and dealing with a toddler, which is very fun,
That is
you got any kids?
Going on there.
Yeah, that's why you've been podcasting for 5 years. there's a more legitimate reason to that. That's why I'm two years behind.
Exactly. I've had the time.
You got any? Obviously, quite a lot of crazy UFO stuff happens in America. Have you had any experiences out there?
Yeah. No. No, sorry to disappoint on that. No, I haven't, unfortunately. I'm waiting for the day, though, because hopefully it'll come when the big open escape.
Sorry. Something will happen. Many people? Are you sure?
I spoke to the fella called Boguslav Shostak, who's a legit radio astronomer who works for SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I think it's like that. Again, not going to find that out. I mean, you would think I would know considering I spoke to him. But yeah, that was a really interesting chat. Like, this is a guy that has been in this field for years, and his job is literally to monitor the skies for radio frequencies to find like, anomalies that aren't explained by human tech, or other ways. You know, like he gets into a whole sort of litany of different ways that they search for stuff. But that was fascinating to actually speak to somebody that does that for a living.
Yet to do that. So that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, well, he's definitely someone I would recommend because he's like really open about it as well. You know what I mean? And he's kind of open if you want to kind of get into some sort of strange stuff as well.
Well, I love the subject of it. Absolutely love it. My partner's not convinced one bit. Yeah, not even slightly.
Really?
Not even. But I'm all in, like all in. So we're very opposed on it. Obviously, the Pentagon are releasing their files this month now. We're in June. Got any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like my basis on it is that there has been some sort of established contact in the past, but because we're so delicate and fragile, I mean, look at just how basically we were willing to run like a flagpole through people.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what would happen if they just broke out on the news? Oh, by the way, aliens do exist, and here's the proof. And the other thing as well at the minute is, you know, how many people would actually believe that. You look at how many conspiracies are literally ricocheting around the internet and through just general day life about anything and everything. There was a point when conspiracy theories were fun and they were kind of cool. Now they're terrifying because people are making them up about anything and believing in them wholeheartedly. So I can't even begin to imagine how, as a collective, we would respond if we were actually told that. There's a phrase for it in which when it's supposed to be declared that people have been waiting for ages, and it escapes my mind now. Like basically the confirmation of intelligent life. But I don't think we'd be able to handle it. Some people are a lot better than others, but as a whole,
lie, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. If it felt like it had been sort of suppressed
and
kept from people, yeah, I could understand.
They've now got to create this report, haven't they? That I think it's going to be very wordy, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a tricky read. Obviously, it's going to be open to the public to read, but I think that unless you know a lot of jargon and you know what the fuck's going on, you're not going to be able to get through it. You know, it's going to be about 1 million pages. Most of it's nonsense. You know what I mean? It's going to be a hard read, full of shit.
Yeah, it's going to be, as you say, like really in terms of the litigation and words used. And
for the normal person, it'll probably be barely legible. Yeah. You know.
But then you'll have people coming into transit. They're telling you the truth or not. They're like, well, I don't know. He seems to know what these
it's like a doctor, isn't it, when he tells you your disease?
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
You're like, well, like
gastro. You know, you could just go on and on with that, and gastro, hemo, whatever. You know, I don't even know if those two are together.
Like, yeah, sure. You've got a coat on, and you've got DR in front of your name.
Well, I don't mean in that sense. I mean how wordy it is, and obviously when they have to tell you, we don't understand, do we? Because it's like Latin, you know. Most of it. Right. Well, I think it is Latin. Yeah, I think a lot of it does probably stem from Latin, and we don't know that. It's almost like, go on.
No, I was going to say, especially if it's bad news, because like, your emotional state is like, oh shit, what was happening? Hang on, now I have to decipher what this actually means in terms of anatomical.
Well, it's like
versions of what's happening.
So you've watched a lot of films. Obviously, have you seen The Dictator? Sacha Baron Cohen. Oh, I can't make a reference, but well, I maybe can. There's a moment where obviously he's a dictator and he changes the language of yes and no, and, positive and negative to the same name. And there's a doctor telling a person that is HIV Aladdin because he changed the last, positive negative at the end. And there's just a guy and his face looks like he's happy and then it drops because he's trying to guess. Yeah. And it's just,
that's good.
It's almost that. It's a good film. You should watch it. It's The Dictator, Sacha Baron Cohen. Again, I'm a huge film geek, so I'll probably have quite a few that I could recommend.
Any recommendations?
I did see when I looked on Twitter that you had somebody on talking about the brain implants. Obviously, Neuralink.
Yeah. Yeah, that's this week's episode. I find this a really increasingly fascinating topic. I talked about it last year in our second season. I actually got a guy on who's written a manifesto, and I just want to clarify, whenever you hear the phrase manifesto, it sounds instantly terrible, like he's writing like a plan of attack.
Taking over the world kind of job.
He's not.
Dr. X.
Exactly, right. Yeah. It makes it sound like this guy's getting on board with them already and has written out a strategic plan of attack for Alexa. That's not true. It's basically just a 101 book, a sort of PDF guide to what transhumanism is, and kind of goes into the various different elements of it and stuff. So I got him to talk to me about it. It's been one of those things that I've known a little bit about, like a peripheral sort of understanding of, but didn't really know the deeper levels of it, and had questions for him on like an ethical scale and stuff like that. And he was really good. He kind of really opened that up a little bit and gave quite good insight to anybody that's never heard of it before in like a formal way. As I say, I like probably most people are aware of what it is. They might just not know what the name for it is, etc. But yeah, I spoke recently to another podcast, a good guy called Chris Cook, who came on to talk to me about the Neuralink thing, because that just blew my mind. When I watched that video, it's something that shouldn't be surprising considering the advances we've made. But just watching it, I was like, holy shit, we're here. This is where we're at now.
There was brain implants, minor ones just for, like hearing and stuff like that. And we've had pacemakers and, we've had quite a lot of stuff. But now this is clearly the next level, and the fact that the version 6 or whatever it would be, it's like you could telepathically almost Bluetooth messages of intent to each other rather than having open dialogue is it's a cool prospect, but for some it's pretty scary and wild.
I'm like with one foot in both of those circles, to be honest. I'm like slap bang in the middle of the Venn diagram, because on one hand, I think, some of the advances and some of the intent and some of the technology we're talking about, especially when it comes to sort of helping repair brain damage or brain malfunctions or memory loss, or with some people, the inability to sort of use motor skills like hands, feet, arms, legs, etc. I mean, I think it's amazing. I think that could be a real huge game changer for so many different areas. But then there are things in there where I'm just like, okay, but when do we say that's enough? And also, what's preventing people with ill intent from taking advantage of that? And also, just as a whole different sort of open book of different problems, because you could kind of get into the whole dividing of social class even further based on it. It sounds like some sort of post-apocalyptic nightmare, but really, you could look at the idea of those with money living much longer and having a much more enhanced life in comparison to those that don't. So I'm really excited and intrigued by it, and I do think a lot of it is really cool. But then there are things where I'm just I don't know.
Films, though, don't you? Is that I think Elysium kind of does it as well. Where you've ever seen Elysium? Obviously, the world's not very good, and up there on the ring, which is Elysium, all the technology is amazing, and there's tons and tons and tons. That was probably the worst example.
That's the one with Jodie Foster.
Yeah, I know Jodie Foster's in there. I couldn't remember if she had an accent or not.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
one
she
of
was
the
in
things
there.
because
Yeah,
the general premise of that was really good. The execution of it was good, but I just remember thinking, oh, what was going on about that? Not
She's a
possible.
great actress, amazing actress. But just I might have to rewatch it just to try and
Yeah.
see what the accent's like now. Yeah, no,
Maybe just go with the trailer.
it's funny
Go
because
see
I
the
think maybe the reason I come up with it straight away was because I was going to watch it like last week, but then I decided not to. So it's probably there still in the front of my brain, thinking we need to watch it. So I probably will.
If I remember rightly, that's a Neil Blomkamp film, right? That's
I
the
think he
dude
did
that
do
did
District. I think
District
he
9.
did District 9. Yeah, nah,
Yeah,
Chappie's
he also did
crap.
Chappie, which we won't talk
That was
about.
like that. You ever seen Real Steel?
Oh, wow.
What? Yeah, That's well, it's stupid
Boxing
because
robot.
Hugh Jackman's in it, which is kind of it's weird. I wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't watch
Yeah.
it. If you don't want to talk about Chappie, you don't want to
No.
probably get
Alright.
into Real Steel. But you should watch it if you want to have a laugh about
Oh, okay.
something.
All right.
Just have a few drinks and get high. If you smoke,
Right.
get high and watch it.
So it's a
No,
non-doctor
absolutely.
prescription for a
Real
good
Steel.
film.
Well,
Steel.
it kind of is. It would be a doctor's prescription because you're laughing out of it and you're having a good time, and it is good for you.
I would maybe question my doctor for sure then if he's recommending.
Well, this is the UK. We really could.
Medicinal purposes.
This.
So you've got gastrosynostosis.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long, lengthy procedure. But for starters, take this copy of Real Steel on DVD because we can't afford Blu-rays. We're on a certain budget.
Well, they wouldn't even do that. They'd just
See how
tell
you're
you to
feeling
watch
in a
it on
week.
Netflix, wouldn't they? They wouldn't even give you a copy. They'd just give you the link on an email
Yeah,
that
that's
you've
true.
got anyway.
Yeah. Right. It is streaming on Amazon Prime.
They could to deal with Amazon in the future. If they hear that now, that the UK GP
Right,
and
yeah,
NHS
just-
could deal with Amazon and Jeff Bezos to.
Oh, don't give him any ideas. He's already buying everything up in sight. If he thinks he can strike a deal with his Prime,
doing a lot of,
subscriptions with
drone
the
things
NHS,
at
he'll
the
be
minute,
all over
isn't
that. It wouldn't surprise me. That man scares me. So Elon Musk is someone that I find fascinating. He's a curious fella, kind of going back a little bit to neural. I mean,
No.
I'm sure he's been called many things. A curious fella's maybe not one of them, but I find him a curious fella. But Jeff Bezos is basically like Lex Luthor in real life to me. Like that man is just you can tell that's clearly a very smart guy, but just got the piss beaten out of him far too many times at school. And is now exacting his financial-based revenge on the world,
Well, you could
one
almost
company
say
at a
that,
time.
like- I mean, I think Elon's a fascinating guy as well. Any time he's on any podcast, boom,
Mhm.
straight on it. But that's probably the difference is that Jeff Bezos isn't doing podcasts and is not on Twitter 24/7 and pissing about with cryptocurrencies and.
Unless it's going to benefit him, he has zero
Yeah,
interest.
yeah.
He's too busy applying
Mastermind.
his mastermind plan. I just like it sounds totally exaggerated, but I imagine that man does have a lair. He's got like the money to buy an underground lair in a
There's plenty
volcano.
of
He
underground
probably
tunnels
has one
under
at
America,
least.
isn't there? And Elon's boring his way through quite a lot of states
Mhm.
at the minute, which is that's fascinating in itself.
Yeah.
I think Virgin's is called the Hyperloop, isn't it?
Mhm.
I don't know which. I can't remember what Elon's is called now. He's a fascinating guy. What do you think of the cryptocurrency generation thing going on at the minute? Because that's another fascinating topic for podcasters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I genuinely feel like it's had a bit of a slow start, but it is beginning to pick up momentum. And I can't honestly say I fully understand it. I kind of know the base of it in the form that it's a digital currency that doesn't have a physical counterpart that can be used for purchasing or trading and what have you. Outside of that, I don't really fully understand how it works exactly. but I wouldn't write it off. I think people have done for a long time, and I think it's slowly beginning to kind of bite them on the ass a little bit, because I do feel that it is going to be much more high profile and more active in the next 5-10 years for sure, and then further on down the line. How much so, I don't know. Will it actually replace the currency that we have now?
Well,
I
bank-
don't know,
I
but
don't think
there's a
it's the Bank of
possibility of
England,
it.
But the UK are creating something called Britcoin. Have you heard about that? Really? Whew. It's just like a lazy version, isn't
I
it?
haven't, no.
You know, just adding an R.
It is a little bit.
Yeah, they.
It was
Just
a
come-
board meeting.
That's where you'd imagine. That's where you imagine Ricky Gervais coming in and just.
Any ideas, lads?
We'll add an R, and then just walk out, fucking dance out. Simple as. It's we also, but before that, I think we just put in some laws about staking. Do you know about staking? Where obviously stabilizes the market, and you stake some coins, and obviously gain a little reward back. And
Yeah.
but they just recently put an interest rate and a taxation, basically, on if you're staking any more than I think it was any more than £5,000 worth of coins.
Right.
So they'll end up charging you and
Mhm.
coming after you.
That's where the dangers lie, I think, especially.
But they
with
did that and then
governments
released
involved
Britcoin, which was
with
kind of
people
ironic,
and
you know.
things.
Kept that one quiet, didn't they?
Yeah.
Dubai
Yeah,
have just released one as well,
Yeah.
called Dubai Coin.
Little side. Well, I mean, I guess, but this is it. I think you're going to see more people jumping on it, and there's pros and cons for that, because obviously it's kind of stretching out the possibility of it becoming a viable source of currency for everybody, and a universal currency if one can be accepted and what have you. But the fact that there's so many popping up, that's the concern. It's like, how far can you stretch it? How
Well,
much
which
are you
one's
actually going to
scams as well
dilute
is the
the
problem.
potential
You know.
of this?
There's so many
You know.
cropping up, and people just go, "Oh,
That's-
this one's
yeah,
really
that's the other
low,"
thing,
and
yeah.
whatever, and excuse me, go all in. You know,
That's the other thing. Yeah, certain people will be jumping in on it. You know,
Mink.
I think the phrase I heard
Yeah.
is meme coin, where it's like things that are popular at the time.
Shiba
just like, sure,
Inu
yeah, let's just
coin
dump a
is
whole bunch of
a new
cash
one.
into it, and it's like,
So it's just called SHIB coin, so ship
Yeah.
coin, and that was up pretty high and gone back down low. But there's a few like that where you go, is that a scam? It's not quite Dogecoin, you know. It's almost there.
That's it though. That's a really interesting and legit point. I think we all need to take into consideration whether or not you're going to invest in this or not, but like for the future of this as a viable thing is looking into and vetting the legitimacy of it, you know, and the legitimacy of who it is that you decide, if you decide to sort of back this and dive into it.
Yeah.
Is like most things,
Well, you can
just
go on
do your
Minty.com
research,
and
like
create
thoroughly
your own
look into it.
You can just go on there, make a coin.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
Alright,
I
that
only
might be, it might be
I
my
only know
idea
that
of the
because I did it
podcast.
2 months ago, and it's still
Get
at
in the
0. So there you go. It's not a scam, but kind of is a scam
Oh.
because you're not really getting anything back investing in me, people. So, and I will state that. Selling myself down the river, but I'll state it. If you want to invest in me, go for it. But it's going to be.
Is it, what,
I
out
think
of
it's
curiosity,
called
what's PHP plug?
PHP token.
What is it actually
So,
called?
like based posting a podcast token. So I think it's called PHPT.
All right. Nice. Well, there you go. And the
It's
tagline
not-
that you can run on your digital
Yeah. It's
billboard
not a
is,
scam,
"It's
but you
not a
might not."
scam, but you might not make anything
You
from
know?
it.
Yeah.
I like that. 100% transparency about it. Look, it isn't a scam for real,
Well, it's
but
not
at
a
the same
pyramid
time,
scheme or a
I'm not
Ponzi
promising you
scheme.
any money.
So it's not. I'm not saying any of that. There's no pyramid involved.
I would I'd love somebody, whether it's crypto or not, somebody just across the board to just have that as their slogan, their tagline. It's not a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no subtitle. There's no
Luckily,
tagline. It's
I'll
just
be able to edit this after.
What?
And I mean, in terms of my actual coin, before I put this out, and then you'll see. I'll immediately change it. It's too late now, people. I've took it. It's not
Right.
a pyramid scheme. I'll just have that as a voice tagline as well. I need an actual trailer, and that's what it could be.
Exactly, and then just bang that on the end. I may also just steal that for this new season.
I don't blame you.
Podcast I'm
You
doing
could be the
that
second
as a
tier with a
tagline.
pyramid
It's not a
scheme.
pyramid scheme.
That's how it works.
Right. That's how it works. It's just dispersed across different platforms,
That's how
each
it
one
sounds.
with the identifying tagline.
I think
It's not a
pretty
pyramid
good.
scheme. It's like, hang on. So there's a cryptocurrency, a podcast, an agricultural machine market, and a company that makes all with the tagline. It's not a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
What do these things have in common?
No. And the funny thing is, it'll be a place in Hackney, London,
Digital world.
that sells the Wellington boots. It'll be somewhere completely. The boots ain't even made here either. They're not even made in this country. Luckily, we're solving that because we're on multiple platforms. Now,
That's right. This is how we
podcast. That's what we do. We just podcast. Yeah.
Just disperse
That's how you get the message across nowadays.
through a podcast. Yeah.
You don't need to just go out hiring people. You just set up a podcast, get it on it. The sooner the better. The quicker you rise up the ladder. It's not a pyramid scheme, but just get in quick.
Exactly.
That's
Start
genius.
their own show.
Yeah.
Before you know it, Jeff Bezos is looking at the and he's like, so
Yeah.
many USB condenser mics going out this month. What's happening?
That's genius.
Boom arms are through the
Brilliant.
roof.
I love it. Yeah. You must have a VNP as well. A VPN, sorry. You need to get. Again, that probably helps. I should probably get one for Texas and do it here, and then you could do the vice versa. We'll all trade VPNs and IP addresses, and then no one will ever find us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Just gets
They'll
really
never be able to
compromising
track
now.
the IP numbers. They'll never know.
The
Holy
Cayman
shit, man, there's a lot of
Islands.
pings
How did they
pinging
fucking
coming
get?
over there.
This is now getting weird. Yeah. Now these are the best kind of shows where you just loosely chat bollocks.
I love it.
It's also good. It's good to just test yourself as well and how quick and sharp you are.
Absolutely,
I feel.
man. Oh, absolutely, and I love that too. And one thing I've found over the last year is it is a good balance. It's good to kind of, if you're talking to a professional,
Yeah.
then obviously you want to kind of
Yeah.
not look like
Well,
an
that's why
idiot.
there's some
So you want to
questions,
have
but
some
they're always
questions
tangent down,
banked.
But
if you
some sort of weird path.
Right, yeah, but you want to leave. Yeah, you want to leave room for flexibility. You want to leave room for that to open up into different things. and
So
be-
you
and
mentioned
just sort of go with the
lockdown
rhythm,
earlier.
as it
What's your
were.
thoughts on the vaccine?
Yeah. I'm for it because I trust science, and I understand certain people want to be very certain before they do anything, and I think that's good. Like generally, I think if you operate with the idea of question everything, that's generally, I feel like it's a healthy approach to most things. Question everything, and everything can be
Yeah.
questioned to various degrees. Some things you should question a lot deeper than others, but generally, and that's just me being a skeptical bastard, just with cynicism,
Carry
just
on.
firing through my entire being. But I think that for me that works out to be pretty healthy. But yeah, no, I'm now fully vaccinated. I've got both of mine, and yeah, I feel like I do understand why some people question it. I understand why some, to a degree, because I've not lived that experience, unless you've lived through somebody's experience. you can't fully understand, but I can get a sense of why certain people, certain communities might be distrustful of what they're told. But at the same time, I just feel like I don't know. It's entirely up to you if you want to get it or not. I'm not going to sort of rain hellfire down on anyone that decides it's not for them. You know what I mean? But I do question it. I do question it a little bit. Why you might not
actually got around to getting one.
I know.
I've said before, on my show, I haven't got one. It's just time. I don't go out much. I will be very shortly. I'll be getting booked in because again, I'll be going sorting my own shit out at the end of this month, and hopefully bombing on stage is the plan. That's the plan. Plans to fail. You go for failure.
That is the plan.
Yep. Pretty low.
Again, like if it happens, you've met your expectations. if you don't and you succeed, yeah, exactly. There's a great way to go about it. Set the bar real low, and you can clear it with ease. But no, I feel like I would recommend people do go get vaccinations. Because the research has been done, and you can look into it. And that's the thing. If you are feeling like, oh, I don't know, then that's fine. But just look into it, question it, research what has been done, look into the science behind it, and also just trust scientists, not your uncle on Facebook. Because who has also been prescribing real steel as a measure to fight off COVID. It was a weird one, I must admit. That did cause a bit of a rift in my family where my uncle suggested.
I mean, people are so sceptical. Like you said, they do have to. They question everything. So you say you question everything. What about flat Earth?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure? You sure?
The Earth's round.
I don't know. I had a mate that sailed clean off it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. No.
Way off there. Yeah. Just text me beforehand.
Fell off the edge before I even could see it coming. No, that's madness, to be honest. I have no wiggle room on that. That's madness. Because we've had proof for God knows how long that the Earth is of a round shape and that it's not flat. I have not met a flat earther in person, thankfully, because I don't know if I could actually hold a conversation with him if I knew.
A few years ago.
Oh, you have? How was that?
He was all in. Yeah, no.
Right. I think you have to be. That's not something you
can. It was a little bit before it all got taken down off YouTube and it all got lost in weird algorithms. But it was where you could go on there and it'd be just video after video of flat Earth, and there'd be every single angle. It wasn't just the debunking side; it was it was the mad side. But he was all in on everything. I'd go around there and we'd have a smoke and we'd be offloading these videos and crazy stuff. But you spend a little bit of time looking into it, and you can kind of believe half of the bullshit. If you.
Though that's what I think happens, and what's interesting is in the show I did, I actually spoke to a QAnon follower, sorry, I should correct that, a former QAnon follower. She's now been out for a little while. Yeah, so that was really interesting in finding how you even find yourself into that in the first place. And then obviously, well, kind of. So the way she found herself into that, not to give too much away, because I want everyone to listen.
It's really dark.
Yeah. All spooky and mysterious. The way she found herself into that is through like a documentary, with air quotes there for listeners, about a number of things about the cabal, essentially. But there are things in there which kind of line up with other things that she's considered or thought about or maybe questioned. You know what I mean? It starts off gently. It's basically like a drug dealer. You know,
Putting them
first
out
hit's
there.
free. Here's
Never
something
happened.
for you.
Not once.
All right.
Yep, it's a myth.
No.
Might happen in America, but not here. Never happened.
Total myth.
If I was getting free drugs, I'll be
All
living
right.
the dream. I'll be finding new dealers every day. I think that's a myth, but sorry, carry on.
Right, man. But it's basically like the way that she explained it to me is that, you know, she saw this thing and it starts off, as I say, with correlations, points of correlation. Here's something that, oh yeah, okay, I've heard of that. I've maybe thought about that. Or, you know, I mean, I do question pharmaceutical companies. And then from then it kind of just opens up a little bit more. And then you kind of get a little bit more intense and then a little bit more wild. But because you've already kind of had enough correlation to bring you in, you kind of begin to think like, oh, well, maybe I haven't been looking at this the right way. And so it's a gradual process of identification, correlation, and then just blatant misinformation, which pulls people in. But
I think
yeah,
it was a wild one.
it's fascinating.
When Alex Jones was talking about it a lot, that's when I think it all got a lot more trending than it just being. What do you think of him? He's a funny guy.
Oh, of course.
Every person so far.
That's one way.
There hasn't been one person that I haven't asked that has said something along those lines, pretty much. No, I get it. Trust me, I get it.
And he's detestable seriously, for a number of reasons. And one of the main ones, is he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, he's not a stupid man. Far from it, in the same way that Donald Trump wasn't particularly a stupid. I mean, there's cases you could argue that, but he knew what he was doing to some extent. Same with Boris Johnson. He's not a stupid man. He knows what he's doing. But it's the purposeful deliverance of what he's delivering. It's knowing that it's bullshit, but knowing that it's going to get clicks, it's going to get viewers, it's going to get people talking, it's going to get trending, it's going to eventually just make him more money and rise him to a higher point of notoriety. And yeah, for that reason,
he gets some stuff right there.
He's a piece of shit.
A little bit. He does get a bit right, but I just think I occasionally just.
I don't know.
Just getting high and watching InfoWars, even from here. It's just that one moment where I love to just sit and I just wait for the moment of gold. That just makes you cringe and fucking crease over, and it happens more frequently than you'd imagine. It's worth. Well, it's
people believe this.
It's not even the way the fact that people believe it. It's the descriptiveness of stuff. You know, he does. Yeah, he does a lot of sound effects as well, and stupid, fuck it. And for me, it's sort of cheap humour in a way, like imitating and. Oh, there are no, he makes them himself with his mouth. Yeah, he'll do like tons of sound effects and.
What?
No, they're like there's tons. He'll make like laser noises and like type noises and some bullshit and no, there's tons of like
sort of vocal mannerism, that weird dog sound.
Yeah, there's some really funny stuff. Honestly, I just like back-to-back sound effect things. Like there's 3-minute videos like pew 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 pew, just total. Mm-hmm. Wild, great. They're funny. If you don't like Alex Jones, you'll like him just for the moments. You'll think he's a piece of shit guy, but you will not. You won't. You'll appreciate it. He ain't no Michael Winslow, but his
appreciate his voice talents.
Yeah, Michael Winslow, man.
That's who it was.
I thought he was a film reviewer.
Legend.
Yeah.
I was, but it's like one of those things when you retain so much useless information, when you need that nugget.
It's like overspill, isn't it?
At the front of the library,
your brain, I've taken everything, which is crap, but most of it is completely useless. Up until like then, oh yeah, Michael Winslow, or whatever it is,
Exactly. Yeah, you say.
Yeah. Believe me, I'll fill the dead air. I'll fill it with my own sound effects at some point when I get used to them. I'm not, but again, I'm not no Alex Jones. Yeah. I'm sure there's some more. Yeah, I'm sure there's some more in there. But I can't really think of any more.
There's a space
Really?
third.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a bit of.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, the only other people that do it for like racial, you know, so that's never going to happen. Certainly not in this day and age.
Right.
Very few people can get away with that shit nowadays. Very few. I don't think there's anybody, to be quite honest. I haven't heard of anyone that's. Can't remember the last person who got cancelled. Someone's due. Someone's due to get cancelled soon. Yeah. Oh, number 12's gone again. Fucking hell.
It's like buses.
Yeah. Come in.
Coming.
Yeah. Someone will. It'll probably be me.
It's not here yet. It's coming.
I'm waiting for it. Before I even start, getting on my feet.
Not before.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping that's the only saving grace. If I can get that done first, I won't give a shit. I'll just then go on some wild, elusive, you know, ghosting moment where they won't find me. You know, I'll do a DB Cooper. I'll just jump out of my plane, but with my podcast. And, you know, with my laptop in a briefcase. No money spilling that way. I ain't losing no money. I ain't that much of a fucking idiot. It'll just be me with my laptop and my microphone. Yeah, the DB Cooper. There probably is one of those already. Somebody's.
The DB Cooper.
I think John McAfee went on a sort of a. You ever hear about that? The dude who, you know, the McAfee Security.
No.
He ended up. Yeah, this is. I'm going to butcher some of this because I've got again overspill. But he did some sort of crazy scandal and then fucked off to some sort of rainforest, and he like no one's found him for years. I don't know if he's been caught yet. But he McAfee security guy as well. John McAfee.
Wow.
I'd give it. It's worth a Google. Just it's worth a Google.
Yeah, that's mind blowing.
John McAfee. I think he stole some money or something. He did something. But whew, he was off. Yeah. That's the guy who fucking was on it to begin with. That's the person. I think I actually used McAfee on my phone. Yeah.
I did like years and years ago.
In the jungle.
It's probably what he's been doing all this time.
He's got all these data banks in the middle of some fucking forest somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Storing, data mining all this shit. It's probably the one mining cryptocurrency the most at the minute. It's probably him. Yeah. McAfee coin. It's not even going to...
But under an anonymous pseudonym. No, John, you can't use
McDonald's will get on that fucker.
People know it's you. Alright.
Yeah. I think if McDonald's heard that name right there, McCoin.
Yeah.
They've already.
Do you know something? I'm going to make a very bold prediction. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Next 5 years, if they haven't done it already,
I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me.
And it'll be so.
I don't know if you can like copyright
probably within store.
Just the Mick part of it, which probably is. I think they're heavily copyrighted because even when people open up,
I think you can.
Ones,
I think
people in the UK open up Mick Indians, which I think is amazing. And then literally up until they got closed down, amazing. And I think they occasionally open back up every once in a while, but boom, there's a few, but amazing. Just the ballsiness of it. They did amazing food, but McDonald's, you know, sons of bitches, couldn't have any of that. Yeah, man.
You've got a love of ballsy independence. There's a place where I used to live called Mario's Pizza, and they just used to have like Super Mario emblazoned across
Well,
the
they need the
windows,
money.
and I was just like, any moment now, lads, Nintendo's going to come knocking on your door. But it was brilliant because it's just like the balls on you to be like,
They're
yeah,
not a very
here's
good
Mario, here's
company at the minute,
Luigi, here's
Nintendo,
Toad
I
on
don't think.
a Mario Kart. Just
Uh,
go for it. I honestly couldn't tell you. I haven't played anything
bother.
from Nintendo for years.
Yeah, if you play Pokemon and you love
I got
Pokemon,
myself a Switch,
go for it.
But
But if you want to waste some money,
really,
it's definitely a good way to do it. Don't take my word for it, but
it's a good way
they're
to
going to
do
bring
it.
another one out, so I wouldn't, jump on the gun. I'd just wait till the better one comes out, which got released clearly fast because the other one's shit and the graphics were.
Right.
You couldn't do a lot graphics wise. I tried to play Mortal Kombat on there and it was crap. So
That also, right, but also because now they're competing in a market where you've got obviously Xbox and PlayStation to put out their next.
Have you heard of the KFC bringing their own console out?
Let's get the next one out ASAP.
Yeah, I'm not lying. It's physically a console. That's
really
apparently going to be very, very good. But you can also cook your chicken in it.
Right.
Yep. And I mean,
wow.
I'd
Multitasking.
hate to get that because imagine how greasy the controllers would get. It'd be disgusting to play. They'd be so slippery. Racing games would be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
You'd be swerving all over the place, but it'd be such a. I'd expect the first trial run of them to overheat quite a lot. The cooling system's either got to be amazing, or you're going to have to be cooking chicken all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
that's the coffee.
The best one ever. The best one ever.
Right, the graphics are terrible, and there's 2 games. And
crashes more than a PlayStation
5 minutes, but the cooling system is absolutely top notch.
No, right. It'll burn your chicken, but it'll never.
Catch
but
fire.
not your house. Comes with its own carbon monoxide fitter.
Not your house.
Just in case. Yeah. You have to get 4 of them in the room. I couldn't imagine how it's going to work. I'm going to have to really look into it before I keep slandering it. Yeah, no, it's real. I'm not even bullshitting it. It's a real concept
that they're looking to do. They're looking to actually. Wow. Well, I mean, fair play to them.
Yeah.
And all, but I'll wait
until. Have you played? Did you play any games much, like VR or anything?
Before I make a commitment, I won't be putting in pre-ordering. No, I mean I have played VR before, but I kind of just don't have much time for gaming. Not as much as I would like to. I used to be massively into it, but it's just kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. It's something that I kind of like
podcasting
to now and
again.
New
thing
but yeah, just I've kind of been out the loop for a little bit. So.
Well, kind of. There's quite a lot of like comedy events and stuff on there.
Is it really?
I started to run a show on there, but then got more involved in this.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
There seems to be a fair few more on there. There's quite a fair few, which it's just recording them seems a bit of a nightmare.
Like a good sort of utilization for it.
But
that's
their
medium.
problem. You're going to do it. I mean, again, I've started to do that, but Anchor just seemed like the easiest way. Anchor's. I haven't done much on YouTube yet.
Yeah. Well, it's a decent medium that you can transition and do additional stuff as well. At the minute, I just tend to just put copies of the podcast on there, but at some point I want to kind of look at
I've heard the
maybe utilizing that a little
uploading
bit more and
process
doing
is
something
really lengthy.
different, like a sort of side project or something with that. Can be. It depends. It depends on obviously the size of files that you're uploading, compression, etc.
No,
And what
yeah,
have
yeah.
you, and also like your internet connection, obviously. But
Well, he probably has
yeah,
some cat 8
you know,
wire
if you're
or
John
something.
McAfee out in the rainforest,
Probably
it
got
might
some
take a little
category
while
8
longer.
wire. It's probably about £100 per fucking 5 meters or something. Yeah. It is a very
Maybe
wild
like,
thing.
He's been siphoning off people with the
I wish I'd
fire
remembered
security
what the
knowledge.
full ins and outs of it, but the overspill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry,
that's why I
it
wished I'd
just
have got
gives me and
some
anybody
a
else
bit more
chance to
prep
go off
for
and,
this.
and do our own
Because
research.
I like doing
There you go.
research, and I like
Dig into it.
I put in some time for some research normally, but most of this is all coming over from the overspill, which is and coffee, which I'm
That's good, man.
yeah. Well, normally I drink on my show, but not today. Which is a gutting one. I'll have to come on your show and have a drink. Yeah. Gives me another excuse to get to talk about this pyramid scheme.
Absolutely. There you go.
Yeah. There isn't one. So
That's right.
I did have a question then,
That is
but
a
I
pyramid
lost
scheme.
it. So when you was reviewing films, what are your top 3? Oh, fucking ridiculous. Nobody
Oh,
can.
dude. See, well, first of all, I appreciate the fact you didn't just ask me to narrow it down to one, because that's almost impossible. I can never do it. And it always changes. Even if I think I have an answer, it changes. It could be changed within the next week, next year. All differs.
Banger.
Oh,
That's a good
top
one.
3 off the top of my head. Lost in Translation, which is a divisive film. People either love that film or they just are like, it's about nothing. And you're like, well, yeah, technically it is, but it's still amazing. Something that I think will forever always be a favorite, don't know if it's going to be top 3, is Empire Strikes Back. Just purely because that opened the door to so much in terms of not just the movie, but actually seeing how things were made, like watching behind the scenes vignettes and stuff that were put at the end of a VHS tape, which is going to date me terribly, but this is before DVD extras. You'd sometimes get little sneak peeks put at the end of a film on the VHS, and I remember seeing stuff from like a remastered version of that and just being blown away by the fact they used models and toys and stuff, and it was just like, that's how you do it. Yeah, like practical effects, it really kicked the door open to like, this is amazing. But just in terms of I love that film as well. And a third,
yeah, so I've not heard of that.
In the Mood for Love, actually, which is a film by director called Wong Kar-wai, which it's brilliant. I had heard of it and I'd heard people speak very highly of it, but didn't watch it until last year, and then did the very rare thing of watching it twice in a row, back to back, because I was just like, this is amazing. In a similar way to Lost in Translation, it's about a relationship that sort of unfurls over time in sort of very sort of nuanced, subtle fashions. And it's more about what isn't said than actually is said, which sounds so artsy and pretentious and wankery, I realize. But it's just a beautiful film, and it's just, again, it's probably a divisive one. There'll be a lot of people that are just like, yeah, not for me, which is, I totally get. But at the same time, I think if it hits you, it probably leaves a deep impression. So yeah, I would go with that.
I always love watching new films. I always find time, because I do it just before bed. And
it's beautiful.
Just literally, I get up super early, so I'll do most of my listening and watching then. If I was to pick 3, the first one, 2001: Space Odyssey. I think.
Oh, cracking! Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can just take what you can from that ending, really.
It doesn't matter because it's just dazzling and it's just like, it's amazing. And I love that's something I love about just art in general is when it has an open-ended subjective. I mean, art in itself is subjective
Yeah,
by
no.
its very nature, obviously, but I just and some people hate it. Some people need a definite, concrete, conclusive ending. If you leave me with interpretation, I'm just like,
My
brilliant, because this is how I
second one,
feel.
Muriel's
This is how
Wedding.
I think it works. But yeah, I
Yeah,
love that aspect about it.
that's a good one. Oof.
Oh, really?
It's a weird,
That's
strange
interesting.
film.
I have never
but
seen that in full.
It's a
I've
very
seen
good one.
clips,
Um,
but I've never.
I'd always recommend anyone to watch it. I'm a strange, weird fan of ABBA, which it's even more bizarre. You know, I've got weird music senses, music tastes, but I don't just like it for that reason.
Okay.
It's like it's just a good, normal narrative story. It's pretty. There's no overcomplicatedness, but it's just I don't know. It's a magical, weird film.
Yeah.
I sort of excuse me. I sort of watched it as a child. So I had a gay uncle, and he had very few DVDs and videos. And again, this was a time of videos, and there was several. That was one of them. The other one, which again is another one of my favourite films, is Short Circuit, which is I've actually got four, but yeah, we'll go for three. But Short Circuit's another one just because I've grown up with it. But obviously, that's almost getting cancelled because of the guy doing the Indian role.
Right.
He was never Indian.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I know it's going to get taken down, so I watched it the other day just to get it in before it gets taken down. And I had to remind my partner because she was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even realise," and I was like, "What? Really?" But it's just one of those crazy facts about that film. It's not why I like it. I like it just because it's a cool robot, and I like the second one more than the first.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I've only seen the set. It's weird. I've never seen the HD.
Yeah, no, the second one is my
I've never
favourite,
seen
just to
Short
add.
Circuit too, but I've seen it a number
The
of
first
times,
one's still-
but I've just for
it's pretty
some reason
good,
never
but
gone back and watched
It's pretty
it.
funny as well. There's some comical bits.
Yeah.
Do you do? Again, I always like to review stuff. What about books? Obviously, you mentioned you was a bit of a nerd in a way earlier. So, what nerdy things do you do? What would you class as nerdy, to be quite honest?
It's basically it's retaining strange, useless knowledge and diving into weird things. So when I say weird things, I mean like good weird, not like dangerous, call the police weird. Like strange sort of avant-garde counterculture films and music and stuff. Just sort of peculiar interests and intrigue of stuff. So anything from like Japanese big city pop music to like jazz fusion, again, just sounds so artsy and wankery. to like the film I mentioned before, Wong Kar-wai film, it's I don't know, I've always just had like a sort of
normally watch
calling towards things that aren't, I don't want to say mainstream because that's the bollocks term as well, but just things that people don't.
Have you ever seen Man from Earth?
Right,
that's an obscure film.
Sometimes a little bit harder to find and seek out. Right,
that's a good recommendation.
Absolutely.
Very low budget. Very.
I don't think so.
It's about a college professor who is basically like leaving. He's been sort of at his college for 10 years and he's leaving, and he's got he's doing a little get together on a party, and they're all asking him why he's leaving, and he's a bit sheepish as to why he's not leaving. And he basically comes out and says that he is a Cro-Magnon man that doesn't age.
Okay.
And he's basically lived over through time, and obviously every 10 years he has to move. But it's a really fascinating film because it's just shot between like 6 people, and it's in like one room pretty much for the whole hour and 30. There's no CGI. There's no
Yeah.
bollocks, special effects. It's just a straightforward guy talking
Yeah.
to a bunch of other professors, and there's a lot of questions from them and skepticism, and it's a fascinating film to watch.
Right.
It's a good one. I think there's a book. I think it's based on a book, but I've not read the book. Again, I'm a fan of obscure films, so I can name.
All right. Are you familiar? I'm just going to pull one right off the top of my head. Are you familiar with the Ken Russell film Altered States? Oh, for some reason that is one film along from the 80s, which just kind of that's not the full title. That's the era. Just so if anyone's trying to. Altered States was a film that it's not the best film in the world, but there's just something in there that just sort of really triggered a real sense of curious intrigue. The basic premise of it is it's a guy who is an academic doctor who is studying different elements of psychology and how the brain works, and his main research module is looking at how hallucinogenics and psychedelics work on the brain, kind of like Timothy Leary a little bit. But he's conducting a series of tests in sensory deprivation tanks as well. And so he's the guinea pig, as it were. And so he goes into the sensory deprivation tank and does this research, and then eventually his brain kind of rolls back to previous times, previous human incarnations, and his body begins to transform into what would have been like caveman era-esque.
Sounds like
and so he becomes
Cronenberg kind of.
So he kind of becomes like a hybrid, and it's kind of like a monster movie, but at the same time, it's just so trippy and weird and bizarre. Yeah, it's not a million miles off. It's kind of in that particular niche of strange body horror, but like psychological horror as well in the mix. But it was just so very weird and trippy, and just like, as I say, just kind of insightful in the sense that it kind of made me think about testing the limits of human brain. And
I'd like to have a try one of them.
Interested in sensory deprivation tanks, and just the idea of cutting yourself off and seeing what happens.
What was it like?
I did once, and it was because of that movie. For me, I kind of botched it a little bit because they gave me a set amount of instructions, and one of them was don't consume caffeine before 6 to 8 hours or something beforehand. Just sort of paraphrasing from the top of my head, and I missed that particular guideline. So I'd had like a coffee in the morning, and so I don't know how much of an effect it had, but it kind of slowed the whole process down a little bit, because obviously my neurochemistry is more awake and my brain is more aware and cognizant. So it took a little while, and initially you are very aware of your space and surroundings. Like, basically, for anyone that doesn't know what it is, and it varies, some institutes and centers have much more sort of advanced, fancy looking ones. This was basically like being put in a giant metal coffin, essentially, with water and Epsom salts, and you're in there, and you have the choice to close it completely, or you can leave a little bit in case you're like really claustrophobic and it's something that's going to freak you out. You can leave it open a little bit with a towel or what have you. But I wanted to immerse myself in it, so I closed it. And you are very aware that you're in this box and that you're kind of floating. And for a moment, you're kind of beginning to wonder, how far away from the bottom am I? How close to the side am I? And then you just kind of have so many different thoughts happening all at once. But eventually, it begins to just fade away. And then you just kind of, it sounds really weird, but you kind of forget exactly where you are. And then you kind of just slip into like a stream of consciousness of your own sort of primal being. You don't start thinking of surface level things of like, how long have I been in here? How far am I away? You just start to just sink into whatever your brain needs to. It was good. It was, like I say, I botched it a little bit because I kind of had a little bit of a slow start.
Well,
and
say,
had
as
kind
someone who likes random
read the
tricky stuff,
instructions.
and it's something that's
I
always
probably would have had a
fascinating,
more
sensory
immersive
deprivation.
experience, but it was definitely
But I think
fascinating.
that initial switching your mind off would be like the trickiest thing, because my mind's always racing a million miles an hour, and so for me, if I'd have had, I would never be able to have a coffee and do that, because don't think I'd ever be able to switch off at all.
Right. Yeah. No. It's definitely worth it. I felt there was some therapeutic benefit to it, especially if you do have a very busy mind. If you're constantly thinking of things and you're trying to multitask and spin various plates, it generally does have a lot of therapeutic qualities to it. And that has kind of led me to finding more interest in other alternative therapies, and looking at the way that our brain works and can kind of be altered, essentially, how you can find yourself in altered states, as it were. Not the movie, but the actual thing. Yeah, so I think that's a really fascinating and interesting topic as well. And that's one that's really beginning to gain a lot more speed and attention. There seems to be a lot more commercial research being done with that, which is brilliant because it obviously provides a lot more sort of evaluation and information on it. But the danger in that is when the pharmaceutical companies are just like, oh, okay, cool. So let's synthesize this and we'll repackage it and charge you this much for it. And then it's just, there's the danger of that, which concerns me. But as a whole, looking at how brain neurochemistry changes and can be changed permanently or semi-permanently to a benefit is amazing. Kind of goes back into the
start legalizing stuff in
there's
this country.
definitely cool, exciting, innovative ideas out there.
A lot of people, a lot of crime. I mean, I did some microdosing for a bit, and it definitely helped. Definitely.
Yeah. I think anything that has had the research put into it and has shown to have a proven positive beneficial fact.
I've heard that's meant to be really good as well.
I spoke to a guy not so long ago who's been doing ketamine infusion therapy for his PTSD, which sounds
in a vape pen as well,
isn't it? On the surface, if you're just coming into this and you have no idea about it, you hear ketamine, you think, geez, that's a horse trank. How can that be therapeutic? But again, it can be done that way, or it can be done through an IV, which this fella did. But he's and
I think
other
an IV would be a bit extreme.
Testimonies and seen experiences from online have
things
about
I think
it.
As soon as it hit you, they didn't know it. I've done ketamine, so
it all depends.
I wouldn't want to do an IV of it. Well, I probably would back in the day.
Yeah,
that would have been amazing. Someone would have offered me a ketamine vape pen back in the day. Wow, it would have been genius. But I probably couldn't do that now. But obviously it's a very, very low dosage. It's essentially microdosing it, which is doing,
It is, and it's all dependent on your medical history. Obviously, they take that into effect, and then they also take into effect like your BMI, your height, your weight, etc.
I mean, tolerance level is one thing that I'd guess would be hard.
Anything that could cause. They tailor it and alter it to fit each person, it seems.
They couldn't just. They'd have to treat that like pharmaceutical pills. When they're doing
you can't get into that.
Antidepressants, you'll have like a 2 milligram and then a 5 and then a 10. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You'd almost have to do the same with ketamine because someone who's done fuck all having the 10 milligram or whatever it is. And then someone who's a hardcore psychiatrist getting that too is going to be like, what the fuck is this shit? This ain't ketamine. Someone's ripped me off. It's I'd like to try. I don't know. I mean, I'm always up for anything, but it's all dependent. Yeah. I think I need weekends away for that rather than. Yeah. No, well.
Right, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
In the right contextual setting. you couldn't be
Yeah,
doing
my
that.
my microdosing with
grams,
mushrooms,
you know.
that was pretty low. And
Depending on what
even
you've
then,
got
that was,
planned for the rest of
I'm
the
very
day,
functional
probably.
anyway. So
Mhm.
mm.
That's the thing, and I think that's something that needs to be put across
No,
to
no.
anybody that's skeptical or doubtful about it. Is that there's plenty of functionality in it. It doesn't necessarily mean that like that's it. The rest of your day and the following day is wiped out. It's like you could get along perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's just like any sense of anxiety, or sort of inhibitors that you may have that prevent you from being productive
Well, it's
drop
like people who say
significantly,
that
and
cannabis
it just
smokers are
leaves you
lazy.
a lot more
That's not really
level
the case. I
and
smoke
open
all day,
and less
every day.
confrontational with
I
yourself. You know?
smoke during this podcast if I could right now.
Oh,
But I get a fucking hell of a lot done. So
Mm.
I don't see how that's the case. You know, I think it's just mindset, and you know, if you want to sit around smoking weed and then watching shit comedies, go for it. You know, if you want to sit around kind of half making them and running around after a toddler and doing whatever and working out all day,
right.
cool,
Exactly.
man. You can smoke weed. You know, it works. works really well as well. Makes it harder. Working out on weed, double the effort, man.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm not. That's not even a joke. You get really high before you're trying to do a heavy session. Good luck. You have to really get moving to begin with, man. But then when you do and you're done after, fucking hell, you feel it. You know you've done some work. It's a very rare one. I do need to have a smoke. What time are we at? No, that's okay. That's not a problem anyway. I'd say it's been a small show, but a very good one.
I'm gonna
Very
sit down for
funny.
the moment.
We'll have to. I'll say I'll come on yours. Yeah. Well, just shoot me an email with some dates, and we'll crack it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Sure. And if you think of a particular subject, because usually what I tend to do is I try and kind of as I said, there's room for flexibility, but usually there's like a core concept.
Oh, believe me, I can
so
come up
if
with
there's something
some
that you want to kind of dig into, or I want to think about,
But I'll try and
something
revolve it
that
around
you
one
see as
singular.
something that kind of I think, oh yeah,
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've no doubt about that, man.
Well, normally what I'll do is I'll have some sort of a picture segment in
Yeah,
my show
sure.
where
To
I'll
start
put
with,
sort of three
like a core
pictures,
concept, and then as I say,
and
we
there'll
can
be
walk
like
it wherever that
nonsense
goes. But
pictures, but I'll put like 3 questions or sort of statements to them that some will be true or false.
all right,
I normally do that, and that's sort of all centered around like one thing, but it's normally a bit hard to guess. So I won't do something like that, but I know what to do. I'll work something out. No, it's cool. Well, anyway, this has been a fantastic show. It's been the Post-Human Podcast tonight. We have been with Mal Foster
that sounds good.
from the Dimed Out Podcast, a veteran of the game, an extremely funny man, and the second man on the pyramid scheme, folks. If you want to get on it, you need to contact him to get up the ladder. He'll deal with the cards, folks. Anyway, this has been a good one. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.